Hare Krishna, devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All yours, Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. So, in this chapter, this is a new chapters today, 12th chapter of 12th canto. We're going to hear more about glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, especially glories of Krishna Katha, hearing Krishna Katha, and also a summary of different topics we already heard in all the 12 cantos so far, like that. Very brief summary. Yeah. Now, Sri Mataji, whenever you're ready, you can start, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayan Namaskrityam Naram Chivam Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayudirate Nasti Prayeshva Bhatreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevaya Bhagavate Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Hare Krishna to all devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. Our Guru Shishra Prabhupada and Gurudev. Today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 12, Chapter 12, Text 1 to 23, The Age of Declaration. So, text number 1. Sut Goswami said, offering my obeisances to the supreme religious principle, devotional service to Lord Krishna, the supreme creator, and to all the Brahmins, I shall now describe the internal principles of religion. Text number 2, O great sages, I have narrated to you the wonderful pastimes of Lord Vishnu as you inquired about them from me. Hearing such narrations is the suitable engagement for a person who is actually a human being. Text number 3. This literature fully glorifies the Supreme Personality of Godhead Hari, who removes all his devotees' sinful reactions. The Lord is glorified as Narayana Hirishikesha and the Lord of Sattvatas. Text number 4. This literature describes the mystery of the Supreme Absolute Truth, the source of the creation and annihilation of this universe. Also presented our divine knowledge of Him together with process of its cultivation and transcendental realization one achieves. Text number 5. The following topics are also narrated: the process of devotional service together, which its subsidiary feature of renunciation, and the histories of Maharaj Parishad and the sage Narad. Text number 6, also described by saintly King Parishad sitting down to fast until that in response to the curse of Brahman's son, and the conversations between Parishad and Shukdev Goswami, who is the best of all Brahmans. Text number 7, the Bhagavatam explains how one can attain liberation at the time of death by practicing fixed meditation in yoga. It also contains a discussion between Narad and Brahma as enumeration of the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his description of how the universe was created in progress sequences beginning from the unmanifested stage of material nature. Text number 8, the scripture also relates the discussion Vidur had with Uddhav and with Maitreya, inquires about the subject matter of this Purana and the winding up of creation within the body of the Supreme Lord at the time of annihilation. Text number 9, the creation affected by the agitation of the modes of material nature, the 7 stages of evolution by elemental transformation, and the construction of the universal egg, from which arises the universal form of the Supreme Lord. All these are thoroughly described. Text number 10. Other topics include the subtle and gross movements of time, the generation of the lotus form, the navel of the Garbhodakshi Vishnu, and the killing of the demon Hinaksh when the earth was delivered from the Garbhodak ocean. Text 11, the Bhagavatam also describes the creation of demigods, animals, and demonic species of life, the birth of Lord Rudra, and the appearance of Swambhava Munu from the half-man, half-woman Ishvara. Text number 12 also related our appearance of the first woman Satarupa, who was the excellent consort of Manu and the offspring of the pious wives of Prajapati Kartam. Text number 13. The Bhagavatam describes that the incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the exalted sage Kapila, and records the conversation between the greatly learned soul and his mother Dehuti. Text number 14 to 15. Also described are the pregnancy of the nine great Brahmanans, the destruction of Daksha's sacrifice, and the history of Dhruva Maharaj, followed by the histories of King Prithu and King Pan, Parachabari, the discussion between Parachabari and Narad, and the life of Maharaj Parivrata. Then of Brahmins, the Bhagavatam tells of the character and activities of Krishna, of King Nabhi, Lord Rishabh, and King Bharata. Text number 16. The Bhagavatam gives us elaborate description of the earth's contents, regions, oceans, mountains, and rivers. Also described are the arrangement of the celestic sphere and the conditions found in the subterranean regions and in hell. Text number 17. The rebirth of Prajapati Daksh as the son of the Prajetas, and the pregnancy of Daksha's daughters, who initiated the races of demigods, demons, human beings, animals, serpents, birds, and so on. All this is described. Text number 18. O Brahmanas, also recounted are the births and deaths of Vattasur and of Diti's son Hirnaksha and Hiranyakashipu, as well as the history of the greatest of Diti's descendants, the exalted soul Prahlad. Text number 19. The region of each Manu, the liberation of Gajendra, and special incarnation of Lord Vishnu in each Manu Avatara, such as Lord Hayashya, are described as well. Text number 20. The Bhagavatam also tells of the appearance of the Lord of the universe as Kumara, Matsya, Narsimha, and Vamana, and of the demigods churning of the milk ocean to obtain nectar. Text number 21. An account of great battle fought between the demigods and the demons, a systematic description of the dynasties of various kings, and narrations concerning Ishvaku's birth, his dynasty, and the dynasty of the pious Shuddhi Yumna, all are presented within this literature. Text number 22. Also related are the histories of the Ila and Tara, and the description of the descendants of the sun god, including such king as Shashad and Nagra. Text number 23. The histories of Shonakai, Sharati, and intelligent Kokustha, Katwanga, Mandita, Shobari, and Sagara are narrated. Thank you, Hare Krishna. This was the last text, which was 23.
Sure. Thank you so much for the so context-wise, we're in the last two chapters of the entire Srimad Bhagavatam. Specifically, we're in the 12th canto, 12th chapter, and there's one more chapter after this, 13th chapter. So just before this chapter, we heard previous chapter covered two main topics based on request from Saunaka Rishi to Suta Goswami. One was the description of the Mahapurusha, the Virat Rupa form, indicating the Tantrika worship Markandeya performed. And then the latest section described about that how sun god, he asked the questions about sun god, how is the manner representation, and how Supreme Lord's manifestation as time potency, his opulences come as sun god and his associates like that. So Sudha Goswami described all the sun god and different associates in the previous chapter. That's previous chapter, last section. Actually, I missed to mention this. And Buddhism Prabhu book is described. He remembered that about that Supreme Lord manifests his potency as a sun god, because Markandeya Rishi, when he's offering prayers, he refers to that. It seems that's why he remembered that point. That's why he's asking the question about sun god. So then the whole description about sun god and his associates, how they're all serving different months of the year, like that is described. And now the way this chapter starts is Sudha Goswami. Oh, let me see the last verse. Yeah. So interestingly, this chapter starts not with a question from Sonakroshi, but Suta Goswami continues describing the summary of what he said like that. So if you remember, Suta Goswami was ending Srimad Bhagavatam a few chapters ago also. Then Sonakroshi asked some questions. But now he's ending with specifically glories of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he talks about the summary of what all he said, like that whole summary, like a 7-day seminar, like that. I don't know how many days Saurabh Rishi discussed. We know Sukadeva Goswami discussed with Parikshit Maharaj for 7 days. So the whole summary is giving like that. So now first 4 verses are wonderful, describing the glories of hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. So next verses are primarily summary. So we'll go through the first 4 verses primarily. So he's saying before he glorifies the bhakti, before he mentions the bhakti word, he's first offering the obeisances to supreme religious principle, he says. That supreme religious principle is nothing but bhakti or devotion service to Krishna. That's what our Acharyas Jiva Goswami and Sri Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur both say that. Basically, then bhakti. So you're offering his obeisances to bhakti like that. And then to Lord Krishna, who is the supreme creator, and also to all the Brahmanas. And he says, say, I shall now describe the eternal principles of religion, which is nothing but principles of bhakti. So now in the text 2, he says, I narrated you so many pastimes, wonderful pastimes of Lord Vishnu, as you inquired them from me. And then what is the glories of hearing that Krishna Katha? He's saying, hearing such narrations is a suitable engagement for a person who's actually a human being. So the purport clarifies it. Narana Purushochitam, that men and women who came to the highest standard of human life, hearing and chanting glories of Supreme Lord, uh, is their main activity like that. That is the essential activity for them, hearing and chanting the glories of Supreme Lord like that. That's somebody in a human form of life. So that means somebody who's not yet realized that is just engaged in some uninterested topics of different other things, then they're not really benefiting from the real benefit of human form of life, achieving the human form of life. So that's the glories of human form. It says that is the suitable, most suitable engagement for the human being like that. Now text 3, he says this literature, that means this Srimad Bhagavatam, fully glorifies the Supreme Lord, who removes all his devotees' sinful reactions. So the name of Supreme Lord who remove is Hari. And that Hari indicates he removes the sin from the hearts of his devotees like that. That is one of the meaning of the Hari. Then other names is referred as, he says, the Lord is glorified with different other names. Narayana, Rishikesha, and the Lord of Satvatas, Satvatapati, like that. Satvatampati, he, like that verse says. So purport clarifies each of the names of the meanings of the holy names. First of all, the Lord's Krishna's holy names indicate his extraordinary transcendental qualities. That's an important point to note. Many times we hear Krishna's names that represent either qualities of Krishna or more, or sometimes they describe the particular pastime of Krishna also, like that. So that's what is indicating. So Hari we discussed. Narayana indicates that the Lord sustains the existence of all other beings. That's what purport clarifies. And the name Rishikesha means Lord Krishna is the ultimate controller of all the senses of all living beings like that. He's the master of all senses. That's the terminology we hear in Bhagavad Gita. Same thing, mentioned differently. Then Bhagwan indicates Lord Krishna is the all-attractive supreme being. And the Satvatam Patihi, that means Lord is naturally the master of saintly and religious people, especially the members of exalted Yadu families, like that. So now text 4, he's further glorifying the Srimad Bhagavatam and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, this literature, this Srimad Bhagavatam, describes the mystery of the supreme absolute truth. So the word used is Brahma Param Gohyam. So Bhujan Prabhu describes is referring to Supreme Absolute Truth. And also the Brahman also, it describes about the Brahman also. And who is the source of creation and annihilation of this universe. Also presented are divine knowledge of him together with the process of cultivation. So knowledge of Supreme Lord is referred as Gnana in the verse. And then the process of cultivation is referred as Upakyanam. That means cultivation of the knowledge about Supreme Lord. And then the transcendental, the result of that cultivation. What is the result of that cultivation? Transcendental realization one achieves like that. So basically, Srimad Bhagavatam gives us the Sambandha Gnana, knowledge of the Supreme Lord in relation to all of us and the material world. And so Srimad Bhagavatam also gives us the process by which we can realize the Supreme Lord and engage in his service as a constitutional position. And then finally, it describes about the ultimate position also, which is being situated in the service of the Supreme Lord. So those are the first 4 verses talking about the glories of the hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we transition to giving the summary. So he says, so obviously one important point to note, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur especially notes is that even though he's choosing few essential topics in each canto like that, first of all, some of the times they're not in order like that he describes. Past times, number 1. Number 2, just because he's mentioning only these, don't think that only these are important. The other past times not mentioned, not important. Don't think like that, he's saying. For example, there's Ambrish pastimes, and that is also described, but it's not mentioned here like that. Like that, but they're also important. Just because they're not mentioned here, don't think that they're less important. Don't make that mistake. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is alerting us. Now going to the this now he talks about a summary of all cantos, whatever he described so far. So basically, 5th and 6th verse describes about topics, some other topics covered in Canto 1. What are the topics? It says, the process of devotional service, bhakti, together with its subsidiary feature of renunciation, vairagya. So vairagya and bhakti, both are discussed. And the histories of Maharaj Parikshit and the sage Narada. So we know some of the topics of vairagya are discussed in relation to Parikshit Maharaj leaving the kingdom and going to the bank of the river, and then in relation to Dhritarashtra leaving in the first canto, leaving the home, and along with him after the, what is the name? Gandhari, and then Vidura also leaving home, we discuss. And then also, what else is there in first canto? Yeah, so the Pandavas. Pandavas are leaving, retiring for the from home also, from the kingdom. So Yudhishthira Maharaj makes Parikshit Maharaj king, and he also lives along with the Pandavas also. Then Draupadi also lives like that. So many examples of renunciation are described. Even Narada Muni leaving the home and going towards the north is described like that. So many renunciation is described, and bhakti also discussed several places in relation to so many devotees. Pandavas, residents of Dwaraka, resident of Hastinapur, Narada Muni himself, and Parikshit Maharaj himself, Yudhishthira Maharaj himself, Bhishma Dev, Kunti Devi, like that. Bhakti is discussed also a lot. Now, text 6. Further, he says, also in the Canto 1, also described as King Parikshit sitting down to fast until death in response to the curse of a Brahmana's son. We know the Shringi's curse. And the conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami, who is the best of all Brahmanas. In one sense, this is spread through all cantos, not just Canto 1. That is the one point being discussed here, that the conversation is also there in Srimad Bhagavatam. In one sense, most of it is that conversation between Parikshit Maharaj and Sukadev Goswami. Now, text 7 describes a few topics in the Canto 2. Essentially, how one can attain liberation at the time of death by practicing fixed meditation yoga. And also discussion between Narada and Brahma, where they discuss pastimes about creation, primary and secondary creation, and also the incarnations of Supreme Lord, and then description of how the universe was created in progressive sequence. This talking about the Sarga and Visarga aspects, how initially Supreme Lord creates the elements required for the further creation by Brahma, and then Brahma creates the next, giving bodies and planetary systems like that. So then text 8 to 13, he chose to talk several verses about Canto 3, interestingly. So what is saying? First is the text Canto 3 as discussions Vidura had with Uddhava. That's how it starts, right? Vidura meets Uddhava. And then Uddhava directs him to go to meet Maitreya. So Vidura and Maitreya meet at Haridwar is discussed. And then they inquire about subject matters of this Purana, that means Srimad Bhagavatam Purana. And also the winding up of creation, that is annihilation items within the body of Supreme Lord, like that. And then the creation itself, creation past tense itself, in detail is discussed in the third canto. Then text 10 talks about the subtle and gross moments of time, the time and small calculations of time to big calculations of time. That whole time is described in the third canto. And then also from Garbhodaya Vishnu, how lotus came and Brahma came in that. That's also described in the third canto. And then killing of the demon Hiranyaksha, and then by Varahadev, when the earth was delivered from the Garbhodaka ocean, like that. That's also described in the third canto. It's just recalling some of the key pastimes. And then text 11, yeah, it's still about the creation, secondary creation of the demigods, animals, and demonic species of life, and birth of Lord Rudra from Brahma, and the appearance of Swayambhu Manu. The translation here is described like Swayambhu Manu from the half man, half woman Ishvara. But in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur commentary, he doesn't translate it like that. That is, of course, Bhanuswami Maharaj translating it. Bhanuswami Maharaj translating it, he says, Swayambhu Manu came along with his wife. That is what the Ardhanari is referring to, like that Bhanuswami Maharaj commentary writes. So now text 12, he says, he says, along with Swayambhu Manu, we know Satrupa also came, was also born. And she was an excellent consort of Manu and the offspring of the pious wives of Prajapati Kardama. That means Kardamuni and Devhuti. They got a wonderful offspring. Who is that? That Kapaladev. So that pastimes are also there in the third canto. And the final verse about third canto here is about how incarnation of Supreme Lord is the Kapil Dev, and his conversation between him and his mother Devahuti, that covers a pretty big chunk of the third canto, and very wonderful instructions that Kapil Dev gave to Devahuti, which talks about devotion service, and it's called Sankhya Yoga, but it is describing devotion service basically through the meditation, which is more prevalent at that time in Satya Yoga, like that. But he gives beautiful instructions on devotion service in different modes, how pure devotion service can be achieved, importance of devotee association, how we should transfer our attachment from material to spiritual, how it is important to not hanker for complete doing the fruitive activities, and the description of kingdom of God also is related to this chapter, I think, if I remember correctly. This canto, I think. The third canto also talks about description of kingdom of God, like Vaikuntha, like that. Okay, now go in text 14, 15, and 16 are talking about cantos 4 and 5, basically. So it says progeny of the nine great Brahmanas. Who were the nine great Brahmanas? That is described in the word for word meaning. Basically, is referring to the sons of Lord Brahma, it seems, the nine sages that were born to Lord Brahma. And then destruction of Daksha's sacrifice. Remember, this is the beginning of the fourth canto. In one sense, fourth canto primarily describes what is the name? Narayani Mataji one time was describing like this. Fourth canto describes three broad things. Devotion service is mode of ignorance practiced by Daksha. Devotion service is mode of passion, that is started by Dhruva, like that, and he went to pure devotion later on. And the devotion stories practiced in mode of goodness, like Prithu Maharaj, like that. That's so Narayana Mata summarizes it. So he's describing Daksha sacrifice and history of Dhruv Maharaj, and history of King Prithu and King Prachina Barhi. And we know several chapters are dedicated to in the fourth canto for a conversation between Narada Muni and Prachina Barhi, where Narada Muni is trying to instruct him. Oh my God, you're doing too many sacrifices and doing animal sacrifices and killing animals. They'll come back and take care of you like that. So don't do that. Like that, he tells with an allegorical story and then nicely narrates that past time also. That's the whole several chapters actually. That one. That's a conversation. And the life of Maharaj Priyavrata. This I remember is in fifth canto, beginning of fifth canto, if I remember correctly. And then and the character and activities of King Nabi, Rishabdev, Lord Rishabha, and King Bharata. These are also in fifth canto. And then text 16, it says elaborate description of Earth's continents, regions, oceans, mountains, and rivers. That means the whole horizontal structure of the earthly planetary system, and then vertical structure of the universe and horizontal structure of the universe are covered in this section. Beginning of fifth canto. Not beginning of fifth canto. Second half of fifth canto, basically. And then, that's talking about both horizontal and vertical structures. Now, text 17 and 18 are talking about Srimad Canto 6 and 7. By the way, these are all like trailer for reading Srimad Bhagavatam, because after this completion of 12th canto, we'll go back to first canto. So these are all trailer for us to get enthused to read the rest of the Bhagavatam again. So now canto 6 and 7, 17th and 18th verse. 17th verse is talking about rebirth of Prajapati Daksha as the son of Prachetas. Actually, there is another pastime also, how Lord Shiva meets Prachetas and instructs them. Ruddra Gita section also is there in fourth canto. And then progeny of Daksha's daughters, like how different species of living beings came from Daksha's daughters, like that. And then text 18 talks about births and deaths of Ritrasura. Of course, Chitraketu pastime is not mentioned here. And that's what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says. That's also important pastime. Don't think that that is not important like that. And then Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu pastimes. And then Prahlad Maharaj, exalted soul Prahlad Maharaj, like that it says. That is seventh canto. Narasimhadeva and Prahlad Maharaj pastimes. And 19th to 26 are describing canto 8 and 9. So we'll discuss some of them today and continue tomorrow for them. So he says the reign of each of the Manu in the different Manvantras and the Gajendra Moksha pastime. That is specifically in one of the Manvantras description. He deep dive based on question from Parishit Maharaj. And then different Manvantras also described. Highest Isha is one name here given, but we know each Manvantara has one form of Vishnu, Amsavatar that comes. Then text 20, Bhagavatam also tells the appearance of Lord of the Universe, like Kurmavatara, that's also in 8th canto, Samudramandan time. And Matsyavatara, that's also there in the 8th canto. I don't remember, it's the 8th or 9th canto. Yeah. Narasimhadev, that's in 7th canto. And Vamanadev, that's in the 8th canto. And the demigods churning of the milk ocean to obtain nectar like that. That's in the 8th canto. And the text 21 talks about the battle between demigods and demons. Actually, this several chapters are dedicated to this in the 8th canto, including how they're fighting, what is their chariot kind of thing, what is their carrier, what weapons they're fighting with, like that. And then dynasties of the various kings is the main topic of 9th canto, Ishanukada, like that. The dynasties of various kings, narrations concerning Ikshvaku's birth. Ikshvaku family is where Lord Rama also came. His dynasty and the dynasty of the pious Sudyumna, all are presented within the literature. And then histories of Ila and Tara, they're from the Sun dynasty, if I remember correctly. Yeah, and the descriptions of descendants of Sun God, including such kings as Sasada and Briga. And then last verse for today, histories of Sukanya, who married a old sage. And there's a nice example actually of how a wife need to care for husband, like that. How wife can earn the heart of the husband, like that. And then Saryati, the intelligent king Kakutsa, Katvanga Maharaj, who understands that he has only short time to live, and then he meditates on Supreme Lord and goes achieves perfection. Mandata king, who actually, because of mistake of drinking some water from sacrifice, he gives birth to 50 childs like that. As a male, but he gives birth to a child, 50 children, 50 girls. And then Sobari Muni gets attracted to enjoying material things, and then he wants to marry them like that. Sagara, we hear that in the description of Ganga, how Ganga came like that. In that description, Sagara Maharaj comes. So yeah, like that, more pastimes are there in the ninth canto that's coming up in the next few verses. So this is like a summary. He's telling that these are all the things that we discussed like that. He's giving a summary. So we'll continue tomorrow. The essential principle we heard about was how the hearing about the glories of Krishna through Srimad Bhagavatam will is very auspicious for us. It removes all sinful reactions and it helps us to understand bhakti, practice bhakti, and realize Krishna to achieve the ultimate perfection. That is the main essence today, apart from hearing the summary of few things that we discussed in the whole Srimad Bhagavatam so far. We'll pause there. Srimad Yes, Mataji.
I had a question like, who are the parents of Uttanapada and Priyamvada?
Oh, that is Swayambhu Manu.
Oh, Swayambhu Manu. And how many? He also has girls, Swayambhu Manu and Shatrupa, right?
Yeah, Swayambhu Manu Shatrupa. He has three girls also.
Three.
Yeah, but the boy name is Priyavrata, not Priyamvada, Priyavrata.
Priyamvrata.
Priyavrata. Yeah.
Priyavrata. Okay.
And then the daughter's name, I don't remember all the names, but Ruchi. Anybody remembers? Ruchi is one name.
Devahuti?
No, Devahuti is Kardamani. Ruchi is one name. And who were the two other names? I don't remember. Anybody remembers? You can share. Otherwise, I'll tell you, send you material.
Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, anybody has questions or comments next time, please raise a hand so that we don't miss you. So that when it's done, you can take. Go ahead, Parmati.
Prabhuji, you mentioned the point that the subsidiary feature of renunciation, vairagya, is bhakti. Like you give the examples of how Parikshit Maharaj and Dhritarashtra, means Dhritarashtra, Pandavas, Vidura, everyone in at the. I couldn't understand, means the point.
Okay. Got it. So he is in that verse, verse number 2, I think, right? Let me see. Verse number 2 or 3?
No, it's I think 3.
3? Okay. 3 is not there.
It is 2.
Let me see. Describe the principles of religion.
I didn't right.
But I remember the point, but I'm trying to see the specific verse. Yeah, correct. Text number 5. Yeah, basically, what I was telling is, he's saying the Canto 1, he described the bhakti along with subsidiary feature of renunciation, vairagya, like that. So what I was saying is, I was giving examples of vairagya, that's all. Other principle we know from first canto, second chapter is, bhakti results in knowledge, jnanam, and then also vairagya, knowledge and detachment, like that. Those are called couplets in Vedic scriptures. Those are the result of bhakti also. We don't need to practice them separately, independent of bhakti, like that. That means we practice knowledge to understand Krishna, to practice bhakti, to get inspired about bhakti, to get inspired about Krishna, like that. And similarly, renunciation we practice to please Krishna, to practice bhakti nicely, like that.
Means the jnana and vairagya, these are the subsidiary feature of bhakti. Right?
Subsidiary means not the primary, that are supplements. They come they come with bhakti.
Oh, I wrote the opposite.
Okay. No, we should not start with those. We should start with bhakti and then go to them. Yeah, they will come automatically.
That's very good, Guruji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. I will offer obeisance to all the devotees. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Obeisance to all the devotees of the Lord. Vancha kalpatarubhesha kupasindubhevacha paditana pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Thank you, devotees. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.